This video is sponsored by Aura. In the initial planning stages, the chapter was supposed to end with her apparent death. I thought, this looks good at first glance, but she shouldn't die here. Isn't there a more appropriate place for that? I felt like I was going to cry while reading it, but I was too embarrassed to cry in front of Isayama-san, so I went to the bathroom to cry in secret. This is a quote from Isayama's editor in 2013 on how he cried when reading the first planned death of Sasha Browse way back in Volume 9. This editor would later go on to beg and plead Isayama to change his mind, and thank to God Isayama, he heard loud and clear, saving Sasha from death up until the climax of the series in the Marley arc. And because of that, this character was given so many moments that connected with both the manga and anime fans alike. She became a staple character and everyone's favorite Patato Girl. So just how did Isayama finally kill this character, and how did it change the series' trajectory once it finally did happen? Well, this would come in the Marley arc when after so very long, the scouts return and essentially clean house by launching a sudden attack on the shores of Marley. In devastating fashion, Titans and soldiers alike are shown why the scouts are elite soldiers, and Sasha is no different. She is now presented with longer hair in all black and showing more physical maturity. In other words, Sasha after the time skip became a unit, and her aim showed no signs of deteriorating either. She would effortlessly take on even Titans with just a rifle. But this would anger Gabby Braun, who would eventually seek revenge against her and the scouts, and well, the rest is history. Ever feel like you're being watched? Like when Commander Ervin catches Sasha borrowing rations from the mess hall. Well, it turns out it's not just the military police controlled by Historia's evil daddy. Ooh. Data brokers are selling your info faster than Sasha can swipe a potato. My sponsor, Aura, has you covered. I googled my name and was given all sorts of links to my personal data that I didn't even know was out there. And this is because scammers have tools, in particular, a database they can use to find you and your information. And that is scary. It should be illegal. Your data is being sold to all sorts of nefarious fellows like scammers and spammers who may call you all day long, as we all know. And they are doing it without your permission. And removing it is even more difficult than that. On your own, you'd have to contact every single one of these websites in Google personally, making the entire process not even realistically worth it. An exorbitant amount of time wasted instead of enjoying your life. That's what they want. And not only that, the Los Angeles Times reported that hackers have stolen the social security numbers of every single American. And this is your first step in protecting yourself. In 2022, Americans lost over $10 billion to online crime. Don't believe me? Take a look at this real data on a website designed to find people's information. So, say goodbye to all of those spam calls with scam call protection. Say goodbye to your information on the dark web with Aura that scans for your information and removes your information from these shady websites that are designed to waste your time in removing the data. That's why I trust and use Aura. Aura is your all-in-one shield. Dark web scans, fraud alerts, VPN, even $5 million theft insurance. One app. Total protection. Would you let someone as voraciously hungry for data like Sasha is for meat steal your data and profit off it without your consent? Try Aura free for 14 days at aura.com/ctactics. Let them handle the threats while you focus on what really matters. Sasha's death sent shockwaves through the internet at the time. Even the VAs behind her voice all put forward some sort of public message paying respects to her character. But why? How did this character become such a core part of the identity of Attack on Titan? How did she become the heart of the series? The most obvious example is her introduction, which perfectly illustrated what Sasha was all about. Splitting that potato and giving that smile was the moment that struck gold. There was just something so charming about a girl who came up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, A combination of her oblivious nature, carefree attitude, and ability to break bread with pretty much anyone showed her down-to-earth nature. That is Sasha's only speed and what makes her stand out. She has what people in America might call Southern hospitality. She is a person of the people in the simplest of ways. Her obliviousness to the social norms of society allows her to cut through a lot of those social norms people are accustomed to within the walls. But that good-natured and down-to-earth style of hers is also what causes a juxtaposition and allows for comedy to seep its way into the series. Comedy, at its most essential core tenets, is pointing out the exaggerated difference in whatever the subject matter may be. Being able to point that out well causes people to laugh because something so outrageously clashing doesn't make sense in such a core, instinctual, and obvious way. This is the recipe for laughter where Sasha sits and shines the brightest. So imagine this, if you take any situation in the series that is highly dramatic and put Sasha in, you'd find a reason to laugh at some point. Because imagine the colossal titan peering over the walls and seeing a girl stuffing her face with a steamed potato, or even worse, a baguette. It's just stupid, and that's why it works. Another great example of this is how Sasha voraciously devours bread after being forced to run all day as punishment for being insubordinate, smuggling some meat under her coat to share with everyone on the walls, which is such a great moment that it was even reanimated in Assassin's Bullet to pay tribute to her. Illustrating that it encapsulates really everything great about her. She is just the right combination of socially oblivious, mischievous, hungry, and undereducated. But that is why we love her so much. That is a juxtaposition of all of the serious people who are doing this for revenge or other more dramatic reasons. That personality of hers works just so well in nearly any forum, and it has a lot to do with her upbringing. She grew up in Dopper Village, away from the hustle and bustle of the walls of Paradis. In other words, rednecks. But seriously, she lived off the land on a farm, and due to this, most likely developed her insane appetite because of the lack of variety and quantity of foods. They didn't have easy access to those kinds of things, and because of that, when introduced to new things, when that would inevitably happen, she would scarf it down with joy. Her tongue was a gateway to the new and interesting spices the world had to offer her. But it wasn't always so, and her open-mindedness and carefree attitude didn't always come so easily. Before we got to know her in the series proper, Sasha took a while to cook. She wasn't as open-minded because being away from society made her unaware of what others were like. And because being raised in the middle of nowhere, foreign things were often dealt with extreme caution. This makes sense because everything in her environment is accounted for and is known intimately. So when something new shows up, there needs to be a period where someone like her has to warm up to it in her own way, observe it from all angles, and to see how her own environment reacts to it. It's a slower but ultimately different way of education that is more hands-on. That is a tool, and a tool which is required when growing up in such a small village where the animals you raise are the food you will eventually eat and even the clothes you wear. It's a hard life, and due to that caution, it becomes more of a personality trait than just a tool. This is why Americans in the South are so odd and sometimes ignorant too. They just do not understand it and need to experience it in a way that is authentic to their own environment. Sasha is no different in that regard. This is why Sasha can be both a simpleton who drews over thick slabs of juicy tender meat while at the same time being deadly sharp in her intuition. Sasha is no doubt a dummy, but she isn't someone who is, I guess, stupid, and is very smart in the ways her environment taught her to be smart. If you were to live in Sasha's environment, as an example, For a year, if you're not used to it at least, you'd probably hate it. And Sasha, if she lived in your environment, would probably hate it too. But over time, Sasha did become tolerant. And that only happened because she stayed true to herself and had a great intuition. While she earned the name Patato Girl for stealing a potato and eating it so brazenly, the name is a double entendre, this word meaning a word which has multiple meanings. Patato Girl is also used in the sense that she can be very absent-minded and dumb. She's a potato girl. But you know, would a stew be as good without your meat and potatoes? You have to have that balance, otherwise it's a lopsided dish. I also relate to Sasha in terms of her personality and upbringing. I was born and raised on a farm myself and learned what it was like to live off the land, the hard work of tilling the fields, raising animals like chickens, goats, and/or, if we were lucky, the most two beautiful horses I've seen in my life. It may not seem like that when I'm talking to you with this super sexalicious voice dripping with temptation. But yeah, I could probably out-farm your bitch-ass any day. And I relate a lot to how Sasha has to take things slow when learning. Yeah, I'm a little dumb as well, but I also have a sharp intuition and pretty good at sharpshooting, cooking, and quite a decent judge of good character, which is kind of all of the traits Sasha has. Very odd. On the other hand, I have downsides, like being socially unaware of how odd and weird I am. I don't really fit in, and honestly, I don't anymore, at least. I don't fit in with those farm types either. I also don't fit in with people in the city either. I'm somewhere in limbo. And what does this have to do with Sasha? Well, I think it shows that Isayama really nailed it, what it was like to come from a small village or community. It does breed some weirdos for sure, but it also breeds people like Sasha and the Sea Tactics, who are both dumber than a sack of potatoes, but equally as delicious and rich in personality. Oh yeah, and by the way, the Sea Tactics dating server is totally open, guys. The fee is just $500. Get in line. And by the way, you must beat me in a battle to date me. A battle to the death, I must add.
I feel kind of funny. Like, haha, funny.
So, when Gabby Braun does finally pull the trigger, the death of Sasha is sudden and shocking. It is also why Sasha is one of the few side characters to have one of the best deaths in the entire series as well. Despite her lower status and role within the plot, her death is treated as monumental because of everything I said before. There is literally no other character that can fill this role in the series, and without her, there is no one to bring balance to the tone. This immediately makes the final season much more focused and much more, darker. Without Sasha, there is nobody to bring levity to Eren killing innocent men, women, and children, and Marley. There is also no levity to make up for Armin doing the same, and there is no levity to the rumbling. The audience is forced to take all of that in as it is, almost as if Isayama is subjecting the viewer to a full frontal attack of, depression. You see, Sasha really needed to die to cement Attack on Titan's legacy and make the final season work as it is. Of course, she is just one of many parts to be fair, but this is also why Sasha is integral to the final season. Without her death, there isn't a moment where the Survey Corps and the Alliance can properly put into perspective just how bad it is. In many ways, Sasha's death allowed everyone to see the world for what it actually is and how far things have gone wrong. You could make a realistic argument that Sasha kept everyone blind, or at least obscured their vision, keeping the veil over their eyes just enough. But look at what happened when she finally did die. Gabby's character flourished into something incredible, and really taking on the role of Sasha a little more, while also being a vehicle for the message that allegiance to and having blind hatred to not believe your lying eyes and just say, oh well, it'll work itself out, or whatever analogy you can put there, stuff like that doesn't work. It also showed Eren personally what he is sacrificing, and was just another future memory that confirmed what he would do. It sent John and Connie's story arcs to their conclusions and eventual conflict with Flock Forster. Sasha Browse was, and still is, the soul of Attack on Titan. Without her, there is nothing to tie it all together. Without her, there is sadness, chaos, and only loss. Is Sasha the most important character of Attack on Titan? No. Is she one of them? Absolutely. She's one of a kind, so rip and rip, Patato Girl. I'm having steamed potatoes for lunch in your honor.
大丈夫ですよ。土地を奪還すればまた牛も羊も増えますから。
Thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video. If you haven't, check out last week's video on what would happen if Squad Levi survived the female Titan. As well, join my Discord brothers and sisters. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.